This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm your host, Roby Brock. Thank you for joining us. We will be joined today, as we are every Monday, by John Brummett, columnist with the Democrat Gazette. We'll talk about some things happening at the Arkansas legislature, as well as some things happening in national and international politics. Stay tuned. John Brummett on today's Talk Business and Politics Daily.
Talk Business and Politics Daily is sponsored in part by Impact Management Group and
Power. It's right there, waiting, ready to go when you are. Connect this, click that, unconnect and go every day. Delivered by your electric cooperative. Each unique, always united, and completely local. Born from a mission to provide dependable, sustainable, and affordable power to every corner of Arkansas. And delivering on that promise for a brighter Arkansas every day. It's the local hometown cooperative way. Better connected. Together. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas.
Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always good to get the week off to a good start with you, John. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
I don't know if you could hear it from as close as you lived to the state capitol this past week, but there was a chorus of Kumbaya that broke out last week up in the governor's conference room. And I'm just wondering if you could hear the old campfire song when you were there with all of this bipartisanship that broke out for the week.
Not quite, but I can tell you this. On Friday morning, I opened my phone to the Democrat Gazette app early, and I punched up page 1 of the Democrat Gazette, and there was a picture there of a smiling, happy Governor Sanders holding up the binder of the bill providing free lunches in public schools. Beaming to her left, next to her, was left of center local state senator Clark Tucker. Between them was left of center city director Kathy Webb, who's a major player in Hunger Alliance. And then there was Republican legislator Vaught, I believe, who was beaming, and others were happy. And I was so moved by this picture, and I'm not kidding, that I called down to the office and I said, can we spike whatever it is I sent you for Sunday, and can I take an hour and write something new? She said, sure. The editor said, sure, if you get it done quickly. So within an hour, I wrote another column just celebrating that moment, taking note of that moment, that it's, and basically on the premise that this is so rare that you need to celebrate it. You need to take note of it, need to record it. This was not so much bipartisan, even though it was, but there aren't enough Democrats to be really significantly bipartisan. It was nonpartisan, and it was a nonpartisan week. First Southern state to provide direct free lunches through the public schools for all students who
breakfast, not lunches, breakfast.
What did I say?
You said lunches, breakfast.
Well, breakfast. Forgive me. And okay, Roby, I made a mistake. Excuse me. I know you're right. Breakfast, and then also this week, maternal health care improvements in the state agreed to bipartisanly. Phones, ban on cell phones in school from bell to bell, a more nonpartisan than bipartisan issue. It was a remarkable week because we're in a period of Trump-driven and Sarah-driven contentious hyper-partisanship, and we took it's like we took a week off from it. And it reminded me of times when we had Republican governors who could be as conservative in their rhetoric as they chose, but who when you got right down to it on some important issues, particularly for children, they could go like her father, Mike Huckabee, and our kids first. And Asa Hutchinson ended up governing much more pragmatically, nonpartisanly, bipartisanly than we might have expected. Continuing this era of modernization that I talked about last week that Jim Tucker helped launch. So yeah, it was a remarkable thing. Now, I don't know if it's in this thing I wrote so quickly for Sunday. Is this a moment of hope, or is this any reason for hope? Is this just an aberration? Probably the latter. And I couldn't get through the column without pointing out that there are significant differences. But yeah, let's take note. This was like an earlier time. This was like a throwback to me, because I grew up covering a legislature that was nominally, or in the early years, overwhelmingly Democratic, but it wasn't partisan. It was people whose differences were regional or other things, not partisanship. And they fashioned a lot of coalitions to do pragmatic things over those years. And turns out Governor Sanders is capable of that as well. And I take every opportunity to say good for her. This is the first or second, but of those opportunities, but I haven't missed one yet, and I'm happy to have seen what happened.
All right, hold that thought, John Brummett. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back to talk more.
Talk Business and Politics Daily is sponsored in part by Capital Advisors Group and...
In the Navy, I train recruits. At Walmart, I recruit veterans. So many veterans have built their careers here.
I served in the Army for 11 years. I was promoted 4 times. Been with Walmart 9 years. I've been promoted 5 times.
I started as an hourly associate, and now I run the store.
430,000 veterans hired in the last decade. That's more than serving in the U.S. Navy today. There's no better place for veterans to work.
Connection. It's the heart of what we do. It's why we work to better the communities where we live and work. It's why we're expanding to get people connected and create digital equity programs that support affordable internet and digital literacy. We're leaders for positive change. From the way we empower our people, clients, and communities to the way we care for our planet. We live our values every day. We're Cox Communications, and we're pleased to connect with you.
I'm joined now by John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Let's turn our attention to national/international affairs. This past week, we've seen President Trump and co-president Elon Musk, I guess, make more cuts through their DOGE program, some that are affecting Arkansas. We've seen the research grant cuts. Seems to have not gone away yet. We saw some slashing of funding for national parks, which doesn't affect a lot of employees in Arkansas, but it has certainly had some sort of effect on that as well. And now I think you're going to get a $5,000 check is what's been floating today from all the cost savings they're putting in effect with this DOGE program, although I thought its whole point was to reduce the national debt. But what do you make of this slash and burn kind of technique that's being used here? And it's clearly going to get challenged in a slew of court filings.
What do I make of it? I've got a column I've already written for next week saying I don't know what in the hell to make of it. The class I lead each week, 1 week I'll say, don't overreact. Those of you who are concerned, those of you who want to resist Trumpism, there's been all these sky is falling commentary from that side for 4 years and 8 years, and it hasn't happened, and you're just playing into his hands. Then the next week, something will happen, and I'll realize in the middle of my presentation, I'm overreacting. I'm risking over. And then the third week, you know what I do? I finally figured out and tell the truth. I don't know. I don't know what to do in terms of how to react to what's happening, because it is extraordinary. And then it turns out, yeah, all these cuts, as this guy Trump tries to consolidate power, if they take these cuts and rather than reducing the deficit and attending to fiscal responsibility, they give it back to the voters. Wow. I mean, to be able to just to go be able to make cuts unilaterally and then deliver yourself personally, here's some money to you. What a powerful political, if cynical, tool that would be. There's this thing called theory of the unitary executive. It was in the movie Vice about Dick Cheney. That really, if a president wanted to, the Constitution gives the commander-in-chief and the chief executive role gives all kinds of powers that go unused. That was something that Cheney in that movie was said to believe in, and may have to an extent. But we're seeing that, and I remember at the time I wrote, thank goodness Donald Trump hasn't seen this movie. Well, he's seen it. And it's not just him, it is the whole CPAC conservative movement. They believe a president can be much more if he's got the nerve than the office of president has been. And it tests our Constitution. It's not widely accepted, but I think that's what they're about. And at the same time, he's palling up with Putin, taking Putin's side against Ukraine. And you got some constitutional scholars and political scientists saying that he's moving America from friendship with its traditional allies to being more of alliance and style with right-wing authoritarianism. That sounds outrageous to say. That sounds like I've overstated. But you can't be sure. It's just and again, it leaves me at a loss as to say what to do about it. Except this. Every day there are a handful of lawsuits filed against what he's doing. And if it's against our Constitution and our courts exist to enforce the Constitution, it's up to the courts. And then it's up to the ability of the citizens and of Trump to live by what the courts say. I'm getting ahead. But that's how extraordinary the situation is right now.
Sometimes with this Trump and Putin alliance that we see forming here, you hear him say things like, Ukraine shouldn't have let themselves get invaded to begin with, or, it's your fault that you haven't stopped this war already, that you didn't start, sort of thing. It's almost gaslighting. It is gaslighting, but it's also it's just this revisionist history, and it gets pointed out, but it doesn't seem to make a dent.
No, there are counter arguments that. And as a practical matter, Ukraine is so dependent for backing and war machinery and money on its allies that it's not in a position to dictate much as a practical matter. But rather than deal with that on a moral, ethical basis, Trump just says, Vladimir and I'll work this out for you, and you're going to live with it. That's what he may be saying. And it's easier when you face moral crises to just run it like a real estate tycoon rather than run it under the Constitution of the United States and by some sort of abiding principle. But that seems to be, it's my observation, that's what he seems to be about. Consolidate power in his office, consolidate power in America, by making America great again, he says, make America the boss again. We will consider our interests not just first, but perhaps exclusively. I'm sounding very alarmist today, and I don't mean to. I'm just analyzing how significant these matters are, and they're compounded daily. Most recently, fired the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's the military. Consolidating that power. So. Worry, be vigilant, think about it, be fair in your assessment, and maybe, have a glass of wine at the end of the day. That's what I've got at this point,
All right. A glass or a bottle, one of the two. So
start with a glass.
All right. He's John Brummett. He's columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We will look forward to your future columns this week, and maybe another round of nonpartisanship will break out in the state legislature.
I'm still looking for that drop-off at the Capitol door that you promised me last week.
There was a little ice on the streets.
I gave you the pass. Yeah, I did. I'm just saying, as we move along, I may be able to get there on my own. I've got a long history of self-traveling, so we'll see if I can do that. Okay, thanks.
Right. And that's all for this edition of Talk Business and Politics Daily. Thanks for tuning in.